Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me here as we, a bunch of international friends, talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff like that. And I'm really happy today to once again be joined from Real Rejects, the one and the only Mr. Greg Alba. Greg, how you doing, sir?
I'm excited to be here. This is a unique, comfortable experience to be doing a live stream with you, John.
And you get to do it from home this time instead of coming down to the studio.
I know. It's much more relaxing.
You get to see Greg Alba in his natural habitat. This is like a wilderness experience. Hey, listen, guys, we've got... With no pants. Don't laugh. I used to do every once in a while, because it's hot in California. Yes. Every once in a while, I would do my show with no pants on. Every once in a while. And this one time I was doing the show, and somebody said, "Hey, John, what's that hot toy figure behind you?" I'm like, "Oh," and I turned around and I got up and grabbed it, and somebody totally screenshotted me with my, my blue tighty whities. And ever since then, I've decided to wear the old pants. I got the pants rocking today. So listen, guys, we got a few things, big major topics we're going to talk about here today. What the hell is going on with this Paramount animated film, Wonderland? There's that coming up. The early reviews are coming up from Jordan Peele's new film, Us. Of course, Captain Marvel destroyed the box office. That and a few things more. But before we get to that, let's go off the top with this. With Captain Marvel making the amount of money that it has now some people crawling out of the woodwork and going like, "Oh, well, that's not a big deal. Every comic book movie makes money." Well, that's demonstrably not true. There have been a number of comic book films that have not only underperformed, but maybe even kind of flopped. Not the least of which was the most recent Fantastic Four movie, of course, directed by Josh Trank. At any rate, somebody got on Twitter and put out the tweet. Joseph Kahn put out and said, "No superhero movie fails." Then Josh Trank, the director of Fantastic Four, put out one of the greatest social media posts I have ever seen. And he simply tweeted back to that dude, "Hold my beer," which I thought was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. And I'll tell you straight up, Greg, I like Josh Trank. He made one of certainly my favorite all-time found footage movie in Chronicle, and I love that movie deeply. And he was completely screwed over by studio interference and all this kind of stuff at Fox, and got made the scapegoat of a lot of things that weren't even really his fault. But for him to get on, you would think he would try to avoid the conversation of Fantastic Four at all, but he sees that, hops on, says, "Hold my beer." I love it when guys can joke about these things, take a little bit shots at themselves. But I know you saw that tweet. What did you think about it?
I think it's great that he's hopping in on it because, him and Ryan Johnson, whenever they hop in on Twitter, I always find it very amusing because of the kind of fandom they have to deal with on a consistent basis. And weirdly, Josh Trank, I actually, I didn't, the first half of that movie, I actually didn't mind. I know people kind of hate that Fantastic Four movie, the whole thing, but the first half, up until it does that time jump after they get their powers, is when the movie completely loses me. But the first half of that, I'll kind of defend that portion of the movie.
I'm not kidding. When I went to go see, first, we were all expecting, with all the stuff we heard about, we were all expecting complete train wreck of a movie going in, right? And I remember going to the first press screening that they had at the Fox lot, which was only a day before the movie came out, which told you everything you needed to know, right? But we're sitting in there, and the movie starts, and we're getting near the end of the first act. And I remember turning to the guy beside me, and I said, "This actually isn't all that bad so far."
That's the reaction, right? Yeah.
We were all complete treats. So far, this isn't bad. Yeah. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. And then the wheels came off, and it kind of skid in all sorts of directions. But it's always nice when we can see guys like that jump on there and poke a little bit of fun at themselves, too.
Yeah, man, I'm hoping. I know he has something in development, something called Fonzo. I don't know anything about that movie, but
it's a movie he's doing with Tom Hardy.
Okay.
And it's about
it's the Al Capone movie, right?
The Al Capone movie, right?
That's right. Yeah.
With Tom Hardy playing Al Capone, which I'm fascinated by. I'm really curious to see. I hope it gets him back on track because, like I said, I loved what he did with Chronicle, and I thought he got dealt a bad hand with Fantastic Four. So I'd like to see what he does moving forward.
Yeah, especially that. Yeah.
Let's move on now to our main topics, guys. How do we select our main topics? here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys pick our main topics by jumping on over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. When you go to that webpage, you're going to see a form there. You just fill it out with your topic or question for the John Campea Show, hit submit, and maybe you'll see your topic or question pop up here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get to our first topic today. And our first topic today comes to us from Bradley Hayden, who writes, "Hey crew, I really loved Get Out by Jordan Peele, so obviously I've been excited to see his new one, Us. I know you said you were looking forward to it too, so I was wondering if you saw the first reviews for it coming out of the South by Southwest Film Festival. They look amazing. Does this get you more pumped for the movie?" Now, Greg, I know you've been looking forward to Us, and I know
Absolutely.
you've seen these initial reviews coming out of South by
yeah.
Southwest. Are they what you expected, more than what you expected? Does it get you more hyped for the movie? Could you not already been more hyped? What's your reaction to all this right now?
Honestly, I've always been a little bit nervous for Jordan Peele after Get Out, because it seems like after he did Get Out, I hear his name every month for a new horror related thing, whether it's a show or a movie, and he's kind of become this horror movie guru. And I'm like, guys, he's done one movie. He's like, it's a great movie, but it's only one film. And to see the trailer for Us, I was like, oh, this looks weird and trippy. And then looking at the reviews for the movie, it seems like it's going to be even weirder than I even thought it would be, which gets me really excited because I like weird. I hear it's a lot more violent too. And it's got like 100% right now on Rotten Tomatoes out of 39 critics, I believe.
Yeah, it's still a small sample size, but I mean,
it's a pretty good sample size.
Not 100.
It's really solid. And the thing is, I'm not 100% confident it'll register with audiences as strongly as Get Out, because based off of what everyone's saying, sounds like there's a lot more social commentary, like a lot more of those nuances that you got to read more into. But then again, I might just be saying that because I'm trying to add something to the conversation that no one else is saying. So yeah, I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like it's going to be an awesome film. I think I'm going to walk out loving it, and it looks freaking insane. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. How about you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I've been looking forward to it ever since they were going to do it. I really liked Get Out. I wanted to see, okay, is Jordan Peele a one-hit wonder?
Exactly.
Or can he actually follow this up? But I'll tell you what, I've got the same kind of apprehension that you do about whether or not this is going to be a film that appeals to a lot of people, because a lot of stuff that I'm reading coming out is everybody loves it. But remember, this is a South by Southwest film audience, which is a kind of a very, has its own kind of dynamic to it. But a lot of the reviews I'm reading is stuff like really trippy.
Yeah.
You know, exactly. That it's got a lot of weird stuff. And I'm like, okay, this could be something that I really dig. I wonder if it's going to be something that resonates with a lot more of the audience.
Right.
Or whether it's something they'll just find a little bit too far gone, or it's going to be Jordan Peele's next Oscar nomination. I'm not sure. But listen, you never want to get too carried away by like a first round of reviews, particularly ones that come out of like a film festival like South by Southwest. But hey, they're coming out. You'd rather see them really positive than see them mixed. And right now it looks really good. And so, and since I know a lot of people, I know you know a lot of people as well that are down there at South by Southwest covering this thing. I mean, it can't help but even get me more excited. So,
yeah, I don't think it's going to be like a Hereditary situation where the critics love it, but the audiences are like, I don't think it's a misadvertised movie, but I imagine it's going to be a lot deeper. And I have a feeling the ending, I just get this impression the ending will leave some people confused. I don't know why, but it seems like it's one of those things where you're like, what was that about exactly? Because a lot of people are sort of responding that way to that movie of, I got a lot from it. There's some stuff. I'm getting the impression it's a rewatch kind of film as well.
What do you mean by rewatch? How do you mean that when you say rewatch?
Like, I feel like you might not fully get it until you watch it a second time, or there's probably a lot more to read into it. And you know, Get Out's kind of the same. Like, I feel like Get Out, you completely get it the first time you watch it, but it seems like for this movie, they just gave him complete control and like, you can do whatever you want. You're the master of horror now, so do whatever the hell you want. And I feel like when someone gets that much reign of their film, they tend to go even deeper, which I'm excited for. I mean, Jordan Peele going that much deeper with his content, I can only imagine for like film gurus and film buffs, it's going to be that much more exciting for them. But like I said, audiences is the one part where I'm like, are they going to fully grasp this?
Yeah, and we'll
I don't
have
even
to
know
wait
if I'll fully grasp it.
Yeah, I know. It might go right over our heads too. Hey, listen, guys, let's move on now to the next topic. But before we get to the next topic, I'll let you know, Robert, me and Greg were both really disappointed. Robert was supposed to join us here today. It was supposed to be me, Greg, and Robert Meyer Burnett. And just like Robert was supposed to join me on the Captain Marvel spoiler review yesterday, he had this thing come up, and unfortunately that thing has carried over into today. And so he texted me like just early this morning. I was like, John, last second, sorry, I still can't get away from this thing. So that's why Robert can't be here today. But don't you worry, guys, Robert will be back again tomorrow. But yeah, so me and Greg are just going to hold down the ship ourselves here.
I don't think I've ever met Robert. Like, I've seen him around so many different things, but I don't think I've ever even shaken the guy's hand before.
He is a delightful gentleman. You're going to like him when you meet him. All right, let's move on now to the second email today. And the second email today comes to us from Alex Burton, who writes, "This weekend, I did a double feature at my theater with Captain Marvel and How to Train Your Dragon 3. That's a nice double feature. Before the latter, a trailer for a film called Wonder Park played. I didn't even know this film existed, yet apparently this reported $100 million film is opening this weekend. Unless there's some secret hype for this film that I'm not aware of, is this film going to be yet another box office flop for Paramount?" Greg, in the midst of How to Train Your Dragon 3 and in the midst of, we just had Lego Movie 2 and a lot of people are saying, wait, what's opening this weekend? And it's this little film called Wonder Park. Is this movie just basically destined to flop at this point? Is this a film that just Paramount had no interest in and therefore didn't want to promote it? Or could this thing surprise us? What's your impressions of it right now?
Well, I cover a lot of trailers on my channel. I never covered this one, but I decided to look it up yesterday. I watched the trailer for the first time yesterday, and it looks all right. It looks more like a giant marketing animated gimmick more than anything else. But my personal opinion aside on what the film actually looks like, just looking at some numbers, the first trailer, the official one that debuted a few months ago, only had about 6.3 million views, which is very low for a Paramount Pictures film and for a film of this size. Like, if that was Paramount's Pet Sematary based off their budget, that'd be all right. But for Wonder Park, and then the second trailer dipped to 2.7 million. I feel like it'll make some money perhaps opening weekend, but I think even for animated films, especially now, there's kind of a higher bar set in terms of more than just being entertaining. Sometimes you get those films that do wonders, but like Lego Movie 2 is very much underperforming. How to Train Your Dragon 3 is doing well, and I guess the only competition it has coming up for Wonder Park specifically in that genre or department would be the live action Dumbo film at the end of the month.
Right.
But I don't think anyone's really gonna care about this. I feel like there's no hype at all for this film. Like, the animation looks cool, but there doesn't really look like there's anything really to connect to or that hasn't been done better by DreamWorks or Pixar at this point. And I feel like family audiences are even more in tune with that now than just falling for some marketing gimmick. What about you?
I just can't get over the fact. Well, there's a couple things. Number one, the animation to me looked a little bit circa 2008.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, it looked a little bit outdated at that point. No buzz. Now, this is actually a movie that has been struggling a lot for over a year now, because they originally got this film going, I believe in 2015 is when they first got rolling on that. But then what happened was, about a year ago, the director of the film, at the time, the movie was called Amusement Park. It wasn't called Wonder Park. It was called Amusement Park for the longest time. And then the director, who was a Pixar animator, he never directed anything, but he's a Pixar animator. They hired him, say, "Hey, you were with Pixar. You must be brilliant. Come on over here." His name was Dylan Brown.
Okay.
They had to fire him over a year ago, or around a year ago, because of multiple complaints from staff about inappropriate behavior.
Oh, God.
So I don't want to go into all that and what that may have or may not have meant or whatever, but that's what they ultimately let him go over. And there may or may not even be a director attached to this right now officially at that point. And it feels like ever since, they just kind of like quietly buried this thing. And it's like, well, we spent $100 million on this. We've got to at least put it out, but we're not going to waste another penny on marketing. That's what it feels like. So with all that in mind, is this... I mean, so Greg, seriously, if Paramount is looking at this and saying this movie has been cursed from the beginning, if that's how they're looking at it, and they changed the name to try to move past the director thing. They changed it from amusement park to Wonder Park. And Paramount just doesn't seem... Do you get their strategy to still just put on theaters? Or at this point, do you think maybe they just should have taken the loss and gone, you know what, let's just put this thing straight to home video and maybe recoup something there? Or is putting in theater the right thing to do at this point?
Yeah. Is it like a New Mutant situation they have on their hands?
Ouch.
I think they're taking a decent gamble because I noticed that it's produced by Nickelodeon as well as its co-producer.
Yes.
And I don't know what the deal is with kids watching television or if they only watch streaming. I don't know that demographic at all and what their viewing experience is like. But I imagine at least on the Nickelodeon channel, they're probably running ads for this constantly on Nickelodeon. So maybe they're banking on that to see if like they can hook those kids who watch Nickelodeon to come out and watch their film. And I feel like they should take the gamble. If it's $100 million film, you might as well take the gamble.
If you can at least get like 20 of it back, why not? I mean, sort of thing.
Exactly. So, I don't think you can make that money back if you release it straight to streaming or Blu-ray. I feel like you would have to release it in the theaters and take the shot that way. That being said, I don't think it's going to make its money back. I think it's going to fail. I
don't know that this thing's going to make 15 million opening weekend. I really don't.
Very surprised.
Yeah, and I have to wait and see.
I don't like that. I don't like either of those titles, Amusement Park or Wonder Park. It seems,
not their strongest marketing effort up to this point. Not in the least. All right, let's move on now to our third email of the day. And the third email today comes to us from one of our Patreon supporters, Ian Barth, who writes, well, the numbers are in, and Captain Marvel has made exactly what John Campea said it would make, $90 to $100 million. Nope. Captain Marvel has made $153 million opening weekend, making it the biggest comic book origin movie ever. What are your thoughts on this? And how do you think it will end up doing overall? Thanks and stay filthy, everyone. Okay, so as I've already mentioned, and you guys know, I was predicting 90 to 100 million. But in my defense, so was a lot of people. Variety initially put its tracking at about $100 million, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And here's why I thought 90 to 100 million. Here's why I thought this. Captain Marvel is a character who has never been introduced in the MCU, who's coming out in her first standalone solo movie. And that's her introduction. Much in the likes of a original Thor movie, Ant-Man, and recently Doctor Strange. So Doctor Strange is in the same boat as Captain Marvel. A character who has not appeared in the MCU before, launching with his first solo film, and he made around $85 million, I think. So I thought, well, this is a comparable situation. Captain Marvel's going to come out, be really successful at $90 to $100 million, ends up making 153. Now, this is important on a couple of levels. Now, first of all, you said in the email that it makes it the number one origin film. Well, yes and no. What it is now is the number one all-time intro film, what I call, because technically speaking, Black Panther is an origin film, but Black Panther had a big major introduction in the MCU in Captain America Civil War, right? So that doesn't really count per se. But if you look at just films that just with characters who just started with their own standalone movie, Captain Marvel is the number one comic book movie ever opening for an intro movie ever. The number two is Deadpool. And now some people would argue that Deadpool maybe even shouldn't be on the list because technically speaking, Deadpool was seen in that Wolverine movie. But this was a totally different incarnation of the character, so I included him here. But anyway, number one is Captain Marvel with 153 million, Deadpool at 134, Suicide Squad at 133, Man of Steel at 116, Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man, at 116 million, or 114 million, I should say. Iron Man debuted to $98 million. Guardians of the Galaxy debuted to 94. Doctor Strange, as we mentioned, debuted at 85. Thor debuted at 65. And the first Captain America, of course, debuted at 65. So, and even if you want to include films like Black Panther, which was really introduced in another film, Captain Marvel is still the number two all-time origin film for any movie opening weekend. Now, let's go to the bigger picture. Bigger picture, how does it compare to not just origin movies or whatever, but all 160 whatever comic book based movies that have come out? It's now in the top 10 all-time opening. Captain Marvel, for all-time comic book movie openings, comes in at number 10 at 153, only beat by films like The Dark Knight at 158, Dark Knight Rises 160, Batman vs. Superman at 166, Iron Man 3 at 174, Captain America Civil War 179, Avengers Age of Ultron 191, Black Panther 202, Avengers at 207, and of course the current reigning champion, how much longer, who knows, but the current reigning champion, Avengers Infinity War, at 258 million. On top of all those ridiculous numbers, you get this number. The film worldwide has made $455 million in 3 days. $455 million in 3 days. That means it's already profitable. The movie's already in the profit. So there go all those kind of theories that Captain Marvel's going to flop and all that kind of nonsense. That's gone.
So happy.
Now, yeah, I'm really happy for it too.
Happy.
But Greg, it does bring up the question.
Yes, sir.
If like a Doctor Strange is opening as an intro movie, all that kind of stuff makes 95 million. Why does Captain Marvel overperform so much? And I've got a theory. Greg, and I want to share it with you.
I hope you do.
Here's my theory. I think, because, there's a lot of people saying all this fake outrage and all this BS, lying, deceitful, like smear campaign of people trying to get Captain Marvel to bomb and trying to get Captain blah, 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 blah.
I see it in my comment boxes. Oh, yeah.
I'm starting to believe, Greg, that whole thing only drove more people. I think that thing got more people interested in this movie. I think it made more people aware. I think the controversy actually increased awareness of the film. So here's my theory, Greg. Here's my theory. Mm-hmm. I think Disney knew this controversy would fuel more people going to it. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that all these YouTube channels and websites that were fueling this smear campaign, I think they're on Disney's payroll. I think I cracked the code, everybody. I think they were in on it with Disney the whole time.
It's not the positive reviews. It's not the positive.
They knew this thing would just increase awareness and drive up the box office. These sites that were promoting the smear campaign actually secretly, covertly on Disney's payroll to up the box office for Captain Marvel. Am I being facetious? Well, maybe. But I think definitely, though, the controversy did just spread the awareness of the film even more. And now, whereas you're getting a Captain or a Doctor Strange opening at 85, which was great, now you got this thing opening at 153. But anyway, Greg, you're seeing these results. I was clearly way off of my prediction of 90 to 100. Were you surprised by the results that we actually ended up with Captain Marvel? Were you not surprised? And what do you attribute that success to?
I'm not surprised. I do agree with you because I do believe that I heard this in the Secret documentary. Energy flows where attention goes, and I think if there's any type of passion directed at anything, whether it's loving or hatred, if it's just middling, I don't think people would have cared. But I think if there's something where people are hating this before it even comes out, that whole boycott theory, I feel like a good amount of those people probably went to go check it out anyway, just so they can hop on the hate bandwagon in hopes they would hate it at least. I also think, though, that, you listed some origin. I think it's really cool that out of the top 10 comics, that's the only one that's the real origin one, excluding Black Panther. But I'm actually there with you on your thought process on that of how it was already introduced in Civil War. But I also think that a big part of what made this movie successful, I think it has a lot to do with the ending of Infinity War and Endgame coming out next month, because the ending of Infinity War, when Nick Fury disappears, what's the correct term? Decimates away.
The decimation,
Yeah, when he vanishes, he does beep Captain Marvel. So I feel like a lot of this is really depending on people going, I feel like I have to watch this now because I saw Infinity War, Endgame's coming out. They're releasing this so close together. So I'm actually kind of thinking about the long-term box office performance of the next few weeks. If a lot of the word of mouth on this film will be people saying, you have to go watch this movie in order to watch Endgame properly. I think a lot of that is linked to that as well. And so that's why I think the movie did so well in numbers. So like all the controversy did a lot of generation for it. MCU's there's just so much weighing on this. The Endgame release, the ending of Infinity War, the first female-led MCU film. There's so many reasons. Like, to me, I'm not surprised it did so well. But when you were talking about some box office numbers, I imagine that, for Iron Man or perhaps Spider-Man, the first one, if you adjusted those for inflation, they might be higher numbers than Captain Marvel. Because that's the funny thing about box office numbers. We always go off the numbers and not the amount of tickets that have been sold. And I imagine that maybe for Spider-Man, there might have been some more tickets sold, because we also, now with comic book movies, we also get so much IMAX releases and all these things that really help generate the box office.
And the genre's growing, right? The genre's going.
Yeah.
These are all building on top of, these are all films that are building on top of the success of the films that have come before them as well. But I still, at the end of the day, I just, 153, no way. I just
couldn't see it.
I did not see that coming. I really didn't. It just makes no sense to me with Doctor Strange opening where it opened. And by the way, I kind of feel like when people have asked me after I saw Endgame, but before the review embargo left, or when I saw, I should say, Captain Marvel. Everybody right now is like, you saw Endgame? No, I haven't seen Endgame yet. But with Captain Marvel, when I'd seen Captain Marvel, but the review embargo hadn't left, people were just asking, okay, but John, just tell me this. Do I have to see this movie in order to see? And what I actually told them was, you know what? I don't think so.
No.
I think if you're one of the people who you just saw the trailers for Captain Marvel and you thought, this isn't appealing to me, but maybe I have to see it if I'm going to understand Endgame, I don't think you do. I really don't. I think your enthusiasm and your excitement for Endgame will go up, and I won't go into spoilers here. I think your enthusiasm and excitement for Endgame will get all the more hyped if you see Captain Marvel. But do you have to see Captain Marvel in order to watch Endgame? I don't think so. I think if you're somebody that the trailers didn't work for you, I think you're safe taking a pass on it. But I liked it, so hey, there you go.
See, I liked it too, and dealing with so I even did a video, put it up on Saturday, about a reaction to our hate comments on the Captain Marvel review, because I'm not in love with the movie, but I liked it, and I did recommend it. I wasn't a big fan of Brie Larson, and I saw it twice, and on the second viewing, I liked it a lot more. But I still feel like Brie Larson could have been more nuanced in her performance. Either way, I just seeing all the sexism surrounding this film leading up to it. The second I heard it made 153 million, I'm like, thank God. I want this movie to make $1 billion as soon as possible, because I want those box office numbers to be rubbed in all those people's faces. I really wanted to perform super well, even though I'm not in love with the movie by any stretch. I wanted to keep kicking ass at the box office right now, and I do agree with you too. I feel like there'll be things in there where you're like, oh, I appreciate this more because I saw Captain Marvel.
Sure,
but
yeah.
I don't think the whole movie rests on the idea that you have to see Captain Marvel in order to understand Avengers Endgame.
Completely agree. All right, let's move on now to the fourth email today. Speaking of Endgame, Sean Klieg writes, hey, John, big fan of the show. Thank you so much, Sean. You keep saying that the next Endgame trailer will be the Boom trailer. But with Feige saying that the marketing will only show the first 15 to 20 minutes of the movie, I don't think we're going to get much action, if any, in the marketing. So I don't think the next trailer will blow us away. What do you think? Okay, so here's the thing, Greg. I've been saying for a while that while I like the Endgame trailers, and look, I'm dying for the movie. I can't wait to see it. I have not been particularly blown away by the trailers like we've been blown away for the Infinity War trailers or Age of Ultron trailers or the original Avengers trailer. They just have not done a lot to like reach out, grab the audience by the throat and say, you will watch me, like the other trailers have. And I've kind of been predicting that we are going to get a third trailer that will be what I call a Boom trailer. Okay. And it'll be that trailer that does that. Now, Kevin Feige has made some comments about where we're going to see from the marketing. Is there some mystery? Remember, Samuel L. Jackson also came out and said that in Captain Marvel, we find out that Captain Marvel is the only character who can do time travel. By the way,
he said that? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, yeah, we did a big story on this in an interview. That Captain Marvel is the one character who can do time travel. Well, that was a misdirect. So we know that Marvel's in the habit of doing misdirects. Okay, fine. But maybe it is. But here's my thought here, Greg. Even if Kevin Feige is saying that, all the marketing will only contain stuff from for the first part of the first act of the film, like first 10 to 30 minutes of the film, whatever. Even if that's the case, let's look at a film like Avengers Age of Ultron. Major set action piece right at the beginning of the film. Let's look at a film like Captain America Winter Soldier. Major action set piece as Cap and Black Widow assault the frigate that was taken by pirates in the first film. And when you go over a lot of these Marvel films, they will have a major action set piece of some sort right in their first act. It may not be with the main villain, it may not be with whatever, but they usually do hit you with that in the first act. They have kind of a pace for these things. So even if the marketing does stick to the first 20, 30 minutes of the film, I still believe there is going to be material in there, enough material for a Kevin Feige and the folks at Marvel to give us what I am affectionately referring to as a boom trailer. I believe in asking the question about what we're going to get out of this, I think we're going to get some heavy action in it because we haven't gotten any action in the other stuff so far. I think we're going to get Captain Marvel, although I thought we were going to get Captain Marvel in the first trailer and we didn't. I thought we were going to get Captain Marvel in the second trailer and we didn't because, hey, they showed Black Panther in the Infinity War trailers before Black Panther ever came out, and look what that did for Black Panther. But they didn't. I do believe now that we're post-Captain Marvel, we will get Captain Marvel in there.
Me too.
But I think it's going to be a boom trailer. Here's what else I think, Greg. There are rumors going around that I think has some credibility to them, that the tickets for Endgame are going to go on sale on April 2nd. I believe that's when the new trailer will drop. I don't know that. I have no insider information. I'm just speculating.
It's usually how it goes.
Because you drop this boom trailer and you end it with tickets on sale now. And boom. So I'm thinking we are going to get big action. I think we are going to get Captain Marvel. And I think we will not, though, see any scenes of Iron Man back on Earth yet. I think he gets back to Earth in the movie, but I don't think we're going to see him in the trailer. So, Greg, you're putting on your, prognosticator hat here.
Yes.
When should we expect an Endgame trailer, and what are you expecting or be the tone or even the items or the characters? What are we going to see in that trailer?
Well, based off when that whole 15 to 20 minute thing, like the thing with a Kevin Feige interview is he's the master at making you think you got a clear answer when you did not get a clear answer. He's so good at that. It blows my mind every time I watch an interview with the guy. And I think what they're trying to do is keep it primarily within the first 15 to 20 minutes of the trailer. But there are things, even in the Super Bowl spot, unless this movie is moving at an insanely fast pace from beginning to end, if you combine the first trailer with the Super Bowl trailer, I'm like, there's no way this is all just in the first 25 minutes of the movie. Like that shot where Cap is like putting his shield back on, the one that everyone's raving about, or the moment where War Machine and Ant-Man are suiting up to go do something. Like if you're talking about maybe getting an early action scene, that might be the action scene we're looking at early on in the movie if we were to get a tease of that. I think it would be important to do it because I personally have been loving the trailers because it's giving me the emotion, it's giving me the drive, it's giving me all those what I call nipple chill moments. I'm getting a lot of that.
There's a t-shirt right there, nipple chill. Hashtag nipple chair. Chill. Greg Alba.
I actually do have a shirt like that. So I get those nipple chills moments with that. But I also think we're going to get probably a clearer shot of Thanos. I think you just gotta, or maybe even a line from Thanos just to really, not like anyone's forgotten about him, but I think that does lead into more motive to go like, yeah, I do gotta go check this movie out. And I know that a long time, I think even before Infinity War, there are these photos that were leaked. I'm sure you've seen them where there's like Ant-Man and Iron Man,
Captain America.
They all have that
Is
thing.
there time travel?
Yeah. I kind of wonder if Marvel, with their marketing, is going to acknowledge that at all in their next trailer, since that leaked such a long time ago. I don't know about that, but I think for sure a moment of Captain Marvel. And I think especially because of Captain Marvel, with all the competition coming up from Shazam and Hellboy, all those films coming up, I think they would want to put Captain Marvel in the trailer to get more people to go, I haven't seen Captain Marvel yet. She's in this Endgame trailer. I should probably go see Captain Marvel. I think that would do that for the marketing department of Marvel Disney on their end. So for sure, Captain Marvel, and for sure a shot of Thanos.
All right, guys. You've heard what we have to say. The question is, what do you guys think? What do you guys think we're going to see in the next Endgame trailer? Jump down to the comment section below and leave us your thoughts. Now, with that down, let's move on to our final email of the day. And our final email today comes to us from Trip McFarlane, who writes, "Hey, John and crew. So, Captain Marvel is in theaters now and is amazing, and Shazam and Endgame are both looking awesome. If Shazam and Endgame turn out as good as they look, could this March and April be the best 2 months in comic book movie history, with all three of these movies opening at the same time?" And here's the interesting thing, Trip and Greg. You missed one.
Hellboy.
There's a little movie called Hellboy coming too, as well.
Yeah.
That
no one brings that up.
that I think looks really good. And let's be honest, the Hellboy movies do not traditionally do gangbusters at the box office. I don't expect this one will either, but it looks really good.
It looks cool. Looks really
so,
cool.
When you think about that, not only are we in a year where we're getting movies like a Captain Marvel and an Avengers Endgame, a Spider-Man Far From Home, there is a 60-day window that we, comic book movie fans who not that long ago had to wait a year just to see one comic book movie, and that wasn't all that long ago, kids. We are now in a 60-day window where we are going to get Captain Marvel, Hellboy, Shazam, and Avengers Endgame all in that same window. Now, I know, Greg, you and I haven't had a chance to talk together about Shazam. The early responses to that are coming out, sound amazing. I have been getting absolutely giddy for this movie. Yes. I think this is going to be a real special movie. I was excited about it ever since they announced Zach Levi. But I'll tell you what, there's a couple of big ifs in this email, but let's address them.
Sure.
So Captain Marvel came out. I think it's a winner. It's clearly doing great business. Audiences seem to be enjoying it. Fantastic.
A cinema score. Yeah, it's going to do well. Going to do better. If,
and this is a big if, I know, if Shazam turns out to be at least, say, 80% as good as we think it's going to be, and then if, and again, it's a big if, it's an if built on top of an if Endgame turns out to be even 80% of what we're all hoping for Endgame to be, and look, Shazam might suck, Endgame might suck, it happens. But if those turn out to be as good as they can, and then you throw that fourth player in there, if Hellboy comes in and gives us a solid movie, shit, man, I don't know how there's any way to say other than this 60-day window may be the best 60-day window in the history of the comic book movie genre for us comic book movie fans, because I'm telling you stuff, I'm basically on the borderline of turtling a bit. I'm ready to shit myself over Shazam. I think this thing looks so freaking good. Endgame, we're all losing our mind for. Hopefully Hellboy can deliver what we're kind of hoping for, and Shazam already hit it out of the park, or I should say Captain Marvel already hit it out of the park. So I'm willing to say at this point, Greg, myself, if these movies turn out, we're looking at the best 60-day window ever. Can you think of some others, or do you think that's what we're heading into right now?
I think absolutely. I would say probably 90-day window, because Endgame comes out at the end of April. So if you got to imagine all of May and how that's going to be performing too for Endgame throughout the box office over the next few weeks after that. But in terms of like opening weekend, I'm super excited because of the fact that a lot of people are not really factoring in Hellboy. I don't think it'll do anywhere near as well in box office numbers. As first off, it's R-rated, its property's not as big, and there's been a mixed response with the movie from the marketing, even though I think the Red Band trailer won over a lot more people. I love I love the idea of these four movies because they all feel so different from one another. Captain Marvel being the first MCU female-led superhero film. You got Shazam, which I read the comic for it, the one that it's primarily based off of from Jeff Johns a couple of months ago, and I loved it. So I'm especially excited for this movie. And that kind of brings back the wonder of being a superhero. Then you got Hellboy, which is an R-rated, looks like a horror comedy, demonic kind of film. And then, of course, you got Endgame. It's freaking Endgame. So the idea of all these different types of comic book movies, as opposed, I know some people criticize the comic book movie genre, but when you look at these four films, they all have a unique amount of subgenres in there, which all make them seem very distinct, not in its visual palette and its tone. So I feel like this is a very, very exciting time. And I just hope that, because we got Shazam. I don't really feel like Hellboy will affect the box office numbers, but there's going to be a lot of, I feel like box office numbers will ultimately be affected by the fact that there's a lot of overlap happening now with over the next couple of weeks. But I think as box office wise, it's going to be a juggernaut, because people have been complaining about how, not complaining, but talking about it as compared to last year, the box office numbers have been down, but they haven't been prepared for what we're getting right now with Captain Marvel, Shazam, Hellboy, and Endgame. There's a lot coming out, and I feel like it'll dominate over last year's box office.
Yeah, and a lot of people forget, too, that, last year, at the beginning of the year, there was this little film called Black Panther that made $1.3 billion, which we have not had until now, with Captain Marvel coming out and doing a lot of repairing to the box office, but that was part of it. But I think you raised a great point, Greg. These are not only 4 films that we're all looking forward to, these are 4 very distinct films, and I think that's going to play a lot in this, and I think you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, that's what gets me
excited. All right, guys. That will do it for all of the emails that you guys have sent in. But as we like to do here on the John Campea Show, we like to save some time to take your live questions. A bunch of you guys have already been firing in some live questions here. So let's jump over to the board and see what you guys are having us talk about today. First up, Kevin Brown is writing, I realized that at no point in Captain Marvel was she called Captain Marvel. Kevin, careful. That's a little bit of, I guess it's not really a spoiler. I imagine during Endgame, they will want to know what to call her. My guess is Miss Marvel. And then Kevin follows it up with, theory time. Captain America heroically dies in Endgame. Carol will step up as the leader, thus obtaining the title of Captain Marvel. Maybe yes or maybe no, Kevin. Unfortunately, I can't go into all of my reasons about why I either agree or disagree with what you're saying, because that could get into spoiler territory with Captain Marvel. By the way, guys, if you're interested in the spoiler discussion, I did a 4.5-hour open spoiler discussion on the channel yesterday. You can find that on my YouTube channel, so you can go find that there.
That's longer than the movie.
Which is almost double the length of the movie, as a matter of fact. Is nearly double the length of the movie. But we had a good time talking about it. Anyway, you can go check that out. As far as, look, a lot of people have been speculating Captain America will die in it. I just want to remind everybody insisted that Captain America was going to die in Civil War. Yeah. And then everybody insisted Captain America was going to die in Infinity War. And now everybody's insisting that Captain America will die here. Is it possible he dies here? Yes. I still don't think he will. I think it's definitely a possibility. I'm not going to fall out of my chair with shock if he does. I think that's absolutely a valid, legit possibility.
Yeah.
But I still don't think so. Like I said, he ain't going to die in Civil War. And I said, he's not going to die in Infinity War. I still think he's alive at the end of this thing. Just maybe goes off into the sunset or whatever. But just, Greg, quickly, what do you think? Is Captain America still breathing by the time the end credits run on Endgame?
I'm halfway there with you. I want him to die, not because I don't like him. I just feel like that would be powerful. And the fact that there's been so much buildup, I feel like there's been a buildup to Tony Stark or Captain America dying. And I feel like one of them's got to go. And Chris Evans has been pretty vocal. Like he said that this was his last film that he's going to be doing. I know he said that before, but I feel like out of everyone who is one of these Marvel superheroes, he seems to be the one who really does want to leave this behind. But it's Marvel, so even if he does die, he can't come back. I just don't want him to die a virgin. You know, it's like he's been around for 100 years. It's about time he has some fun in his life. He's just been so depressed this entire time.
All right, let's move on to the next one here. The next one comes to us from Joe Byram, who writes, Aquaman's Shazam featurette is a 3.5-minute clip from the movie. I haven't seen that yet, but I've been hearing about it. And, oh, good. Just another thing to get me even more hyped for Shazam. Thank you so much. Murray Reich writes, Supernatural, holy crap, what an episode last week. I have not caught up. I got to watch the next episode of Supernatural. I'm going to watch that today. I have not caught up. I'm still not caught up on Flash either. So I got a few things I need to get caught up on, but Supernatural I'm still not up to date on. I will get caught up on that today. Dalton Burdett writes, when my buddy and I saw Fast 8 in theaters, I noticed his arms were crossed during the final scene with Jason Statham. I asked him what was wrong. He said, that son of a bitch killed Han. Hashtag justice for Han. And Greg, you may not know that me and Robert have this constant battle going on. Robert wants justice for Han. I am of the team hashtag Han had it coming.
Why?
Han had it coming. And I'm totally thrilled that Jason Statham is now in this movie and going to be rocking things up with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Hashtag Han had it coming. I don't know, which side of that debate do you fall on? Are you Justice for Han or Han had it coming? Pick a side.
I don't care about any of them. So I like those movies, but I'm not invested enough in any of those family members to be like, what the hell? Like, logically, it doesn't make sense to me. But just for fun, I will side with you because I like Jason Statham being in the position he's in Hobbs and Shaw. So yeah,
nice.
I'd side
Another
with you.
proud member of the Han had it coming.
Yeah,
army.
Han had it coming. Suck it, guys.
Next up, Zach Bartran writes, so the third Annabelle film apparently comes out in June, and I know next to nothing about it. Do you guys have any scoops? Actually, Zach, if I'm not mistaken, I believe what the story is that the third Annabelle film, I thought we were talking about the third Conjuring film. I was going to say, no, the third Conjuring film goes into production this summer. It doesn't shoot. The third Annabelle film. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're staying mum on it. I don't know much about it. Does it actually come out this June? I haven't been following that, Greg. Have you?
I think so. There should have been a trailer by now if it's coming out in June. It's Annabelle, so I'd imagine there'd be a trailer for it at this point.
Let me just look it up here. Annabelle 3.
Because they have the Curse of La Llorona coming out. I think I said that right. Curse of La Llorona come out in April.
Dude, that's what I say, and then everybody gets mad at me. It's La Llorona. People tell me. Okay, no. Annabelle 3 comes out July 3rd, 2019. It doesn't come out. But this is an awkward time, though. I mean, look, we've got Captain Marvel in theaters. We've got Shazam coming. Everybody's buzzing about Endgame. Is now the time. Now, granted, we're in March, April, May, June. We're still 4 months out. Still 4 months out. And so I don't know anything about the film, only that I hope it is more like Annabelle 2, which I thought was quite good.
I like that, yeah.
And not like Annabelle 1, which frankly I thought was quite bad. Mm-hmm. So here's hoping. But nothing yet, but it's still 4 months out for a smaller film. I don't think there's anything to get worried about at this point. Okay, let's move on here to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Murray Reich, who writes, what do you think Brightburn is going to be, PG-13 or R?
Ooh. Please R, please. I really hope it's R.
I got a feeling it's going to be R. Number one, you got James Gunn is producing it. His brothers wrote and were kind of the steaming this thing along. And if you're going to go for that sort of thing, why not do R? Why not do R? Yeah. If you're going for this dark, creepy kind of thing, it's James Gunn. I'm going to guess R, but I honestly don't know. I haven't heard anything. Have you?
No, I thought it was R. I mean, in the second trailer, a lady's pulling a glass out of her eyeball.
Yeah, that's a pretty good indication. Yeah. That might be considered graphic for some people. Yeah, I'm going to guess R.
I feel like it'd be half-assing it if it didn't go R. Yeah. I feel like it has to go R.
All right, let's move on here. Snake Jerusalem writes, is Captain Marvel on pace to do a 1 billion worldwide? Listen, the 1 billion mark is really tough to call pace on because, look, Aquaman opened to $67 million opening weekend, and it crossed $1 billion. Avatar opened, I believe Avatar opened to less than $100 million opening weekend, and it's the all-time number one box office movie by a mile at $2.7 billion. So it's really tough to call pace at this point. I still have my doubts. I know. I didn't think Aquaman would make 800 million. I didn't think Venom would hit 800 million either. I still have my doubts that Captain Marvel hits $1 billion. But they don't need to hit $1 billion to be a huge success. It's already a huge success. I'm going to call I still have doubts it'll hit $1 billion. But again, right now, it's just the numbers are too wacky for first weekend to call what is it on pace for, because you got to give it a few weeks before you can really kind of judge that. Zachary Buckler writes, during the Captain Marvel post-credit scene, my mom yelled, F you Thanos. I'm not sure if I'm more excited about Captain Marvel in Endgame or more afraid of my mother. It is great. Like, Greg, I've seen the movie twice. You've seen the movie twice. Mm-hmm. One of the awesome things has been when you're in there, and again, we're not going to reveal what the end credit scene is if you haven't seen it yet, but one of the most awesome things is seeing the audience's reaction to that mid-credit scene, because both times people lost their minds. Like, what was your audience like?
People loved it. The first time was a Disney press screening, and then the second time was a regular screening, and everyone applauded after that moment. Like, that moment, that it's weird because even though I thought this movie's good, but then when you get to that post credits and you're like, oh man, I cannot wait to see what she does in that movie. Like, that gets you really excited. Yeah.
Everybody loses their mind. All right. let's move on here. Mike Ferrino writes, regarding Captain Marvel mid-credit scene as a part of Endgame, they have done it before with Doctor Strange. The end credit scene was directly from Ragnarok.
Same thing with Ant-Man and Civil War.
Actually, yeah, there is something, because what I've been saying is that typically speaking, Marvel doesn't take a post-credit scene and then put it in the next movie. Mm-hmm. What they have done is like at the end of Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War picks up right after the end credits scene in Thor Ragnarok. So a lot of people, again, it's tough. We can't go into too much discussion here, Mike, about it because we don't want to give anything away about the post-credits scene in Captain Marvel. So I understand your point. We just can't discuss it very much right here. Murray Reich writes, over under 50% that Shazam beats Captain Marvel's opening domestic weekend box office.
I don't know about that. What does he mean exactly by that? That it's under 50% of
like if he says, okay, he's setting the line at 50%.
Okay.
So do we believe the chances that Captain Marvel will beat, will be beaten by Shazam's opening weekend box office are over 50% chance or under 50% chance? I'll tell you what. I think people are liking Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
I think that gets people excited to come back to the theaters and watch a comic book movie again. Yeah. I think the trailers for Shazam have been vastly superior to Captain Marvel's trailers. I thought the Captain Marvel's trailers were good at best. I think the Shazam trailers have been fantastic.
Fill your heart with joy.
Fill your heart with joy, and it looks like something more families may go to.
Exactly.
Captain Marvel's clearly a family-friendly film, but this one's like portraying itself as family-friendly. I'll tell you what, Murray. I'll take the over. I'll take over 50% chance that Shazam beats Captain. I think it makes over $153 million. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I'm going to say that. Greg, do you think it's going to beat that $153 million mark? It's a big number, man. It's a big number.
I think it'll have an amazing opening weekend. But I feel like there's just so much other things surround. Like you even predicted for Captain Marvel, and I think a lot of people did for 90 to 100 million. I'd be very surprised if Shazam. I feel like Shazam will have a really killer opening weekend, but 153 million. It doesn't have any controversy or anything surrounding it to really have that build up for it or something coming after it. Like you have to see Shazam. But I imagine it'll probably be like 90 to 100 million for its opening weekend, especially after the success of Aquaman and the DC fan base wanting to keep it going. But yeah, I mean, I'd be very surprised. I'd be happy.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised. I'd be happy though. I would be.
All right. Let's move on here. Next one up comes to us from Tyler Yeats, who writes, have you seen the trailer for Good Boys? It looks hilarious. I'll tell you what, this is a trailer for those of you who have not heard that just dropped this morning. And it's about some very young kids swearing. And at first I thought, this is lame. I was like, oh, look, a 10-year-old saying fuck. Oh, yeah, isn't that hilarious? But I'll tell you what, as the trailer progresses, it's a really funny trailer.
Okay.
And I knew next to nothing about this movie other than, I heard about it, blah, blah, blah. I got to tell you, Greg, I'm kind of stoked to see this movie now.
Really?
Did you have a chance to see this trailer this morning? What do you think about it?
Not yet. I haven't seen it yet. I know Seth Rogen produced it. And
he's in the trailer.
Oh, is he? Okay.
There's a little fourth wall breaking going on in the trailer. The trailer starts with the joke of Seth Rogen sitting with the three kids who are the stars. And it's like, okay, guys, I just wanted to bring you in here and let you know that legally speaking, you are not allowed to watch the trailer to your own movie. And they're like, what? What are you talking about? He goes, I know we have you in the movie doing and saying all these things, but we're not allowed to show you a trailer of you doing and saying all those things. That's Hollywood. And then they actually start the trailer. And I'm going to be curious to know, Greg, your thoughts on this trailer when you have a chance to see it. Because
did you find that opening bit funnier than the actual trailer? Because
I thought the trailer was quite fun. Like the trailer starts, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids dropping the F-bomb. Ooh, isn't that hilarious? But it's more than that. And it turns out to be pretty charming. I'm going to be curious to watch you and John to see what you guys think about this thing when you put up your review to it. All right. Next one here comes to us from Javier Belmer, who writes, I wonder if Captain Marvel 2 will be set after Endgame or before, since there are decades between Captain Marvel and Endgame. I hope afterwards. I'm not big on let's go back in time and tell this other story now. Now, this was Captain Marvel's origins. Okay, I get that. You had to set that up and do it when you did. But now with the sequel, we're going to have Captain Marvel and Endgame move the story forward after that. So I'm guessing there's certainly a chance they do that. Because like you said, there are decades of space between the 90s and now. But I'm going to hope that they move forward. Greg, Captain Marvel 2, is it going to happen in the past again, or do they move forward post-Endgame?
I feel like they're likely to do what Winter Soldier did, which is just keep it post-Endgame. I know that this is where you and I disagree. I personally would like to see something that doesn't take place on Earth, perhaps, and whatever went on in that giant gap where she wasn't on Earth or didn't ever return in like the 20-something years that she had an opportunity to. But it also would be pretty cool if it's post-Endgame and then you have an adult Monica Rambeau and her character there on Earth with Captain Marvel. I feel like that would get me excited if you did something like that. But I feel like there are gaps or things that people would like to see a little bit more explored, like Skrull versus Kree territory, the war there.
Let's not give too much away. All right, next up, Aaron H. writes, Us, Shazam, Endgame, Game of Thrones. What a time to be alive. And, we talked the other day, Aaron, about the fact that the exact same weekend has the release of Avengers Endgame and the episode of Game of Thrones everybody's talking about, the Battle of Winterfell. They both happen on the same weekend, which is going to be massive. Look, I'll tell you what, there are going to be people who stay home from the movie theaters on that Sunday night to watch the Game of Thrones Battle of Winterfell. There are going to be people that stay home that night. I don't think it's going to affect the opening weekend all that much, but there's going to be a little bit of a difference because that's a major weekend. All right, Javier Riaz 405 writes, do you think Captain Marvel will be in the top 5 when Shazam opens in theaters on April 5th?
Yeah.
You think so? You
Definitely.
think so?
Definitely. I mean, what else is coming out I know we got Us that's coming out. We got Wonder Park this weekend, but and then there's Dumbo. So I imagine it'll at least be number 5 out of all the movies.
Well, what do we got here? We got Wonder Park, Us, Dumbo, Pet Sematary, and Shazam. There's 5 films right there.
Yeah, I think Wonder Park won't be in the top 5 though.
Okay, so no Wonder Park. Okay, so we got Us, Dumbo, where are we at here? Pet Sematary and Shazam. Okay, so maybe there's a chance that Shazam or that Captain Marvel hangs onto that top 5 spot, but that's like 4 weeks from now. So that's, I don't know, man. It seems like a little bit of a tall order.
It'll be easier to determine that based on its second weekend performance.
I agree.
Much easier to determine.
I agree.
Yeah.
But remember, this is what I always say when a movie has a huge opening weekend. That means a lot of people, or most people who were wanting to see it, went to go see it already.
Yeah.
So you're not going to see a 30% drop. You're not going to see a 40% drop. You're probably going to see a 60% drop.
60, yeah, I'd say 60.
And if it's much more than that, if it's much less than that, I don't know. You're right. I think we're going to learn a lot from the second week drop-off. Okay. We keep moving on here with Javier Riaz, who writes, will Captain Marvel be in the top 10 when Endgame comes out? Ooh.
Oh, boy.
Because now you're talking about it being in theaters for a long time.
Almost 2 months at that point.
Well, you know what? Let's look at the top 10 right now. What's in the top 10 at this moment? So we've got, in the top 10... we've got Apollo 11, the documentary, made 1.3 million. Greta, Fighting with My Family, which is great, by the way, guys. If you haven't seen Fighting with My Family. I liked it. I was so surprised by how much I liked that.
Very much liked it, yeah.
Isn't it more romantic? So, I don't know. Can it be making $2 or $3 million in its like 8th or 9th weekend? I don't know. Right now, The Upside is the only film out there that's still in theaters in its 9th week, and it's on the number 12 spot.
Right.
So it's in the number 12 spot. So, I mean, A Star is Born is also in its 23rd week, in the number 14 spot, but it's also got all the the pump from the Oscars, as well as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is on week 13 in the number 15 spot. But that's, again, a big push it got from the Oscars. So,
well, Star Wars also got that. Didn't they get that extended cut, like the extra 10 or 12 minutes?
Re-release with which I was not interested in. I like the movie very much, but I was not interested in the extra 10 minutes. I will say this. I think it's got a better chance to be in the top 5 when Shazam comes out than it does being in the top 10 when Endgame comes out. But we will find out.
Like I said, if Captain Marvel's in that Endgame trailer, I think it'll probably have a better chance of being in the top 10.
Give it more of a push.
Yeah.
All right. Topher Rocks writes, I thought the film was okay. Didn't hate it. Didn't love it, though. My favorite scene was her getting back up at different parts of her life. Gave me chills. I thought that was a really good scene when they did that. And, of course, that's something they showed us in the trailer, so it's not any spoiler material. But the way they used that in the movie, I thought was actually quite good. And it could have come across really cheesy. I thought it came across really well.
She always stands the same way, too. The same
exactly.
Yeah.
Kevin Rubio writes, as Captain Marvel is technically sci-fi, what's everyone's favorite sci-fi film pre-2001 A Space Odyssey? Woo. Well, 2001 A Space Odyssey, I believe, came out in 68, 69. And I think Planet of the Apes. See, here's the thing. I'm pretty sure Planet of the Apes came out the same year. I think it came out in 68. So I don't know which came out first. I don't know.
Both came out in 1968.
They both came out in 1968. I don't know which one came out first. So just to be safe, I'll say my favorite sci-fi film prior to that might actually be Time Machine.
That's what I was going to say.
Were you going to say Time Machine too?
I was going to say Time Machine, yeah.
I'm going to have to go Time Machine. I mean, of course, we're talking about the original, not the remake with
Guy Pearce.
Guy Pearce and wasn't Jeremy Irons in that as well? Wasn't he the villain?
I think he might have been the whatever they're called.
Yeah, I think he might have been the villain. But anyway, yeah, certainly not that film. But that original one, that's the one I think Greg and I here are going to stick with. Let's move on here. Tulu Elizabeth writes, with Captain Marvel outpacing Black Panther worldwide and with no real competition till the U.S. opens in 2 weeks, do you think it could make it to $1 billion? Again, Tulu, it's difficult to call pacing, especially when different movies open in a different number of countries all the time. Like one movie may open in 18 countries, one may open in 32 countries, in blah, 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 blah. So it's really, really difficult to call pacing. I'll call right now that I do not believe in any reality that, and I've been bitten in the ass with this before, but I don't believe in any reality where Captain Marvel makes $1.3 billion.
I don't think it'll outbeat Black Panther.
But can it get to $1 billion? Again, I'm going to lean no. I think it gets, I mean, I was calling 600 to 700 million before. I got to adjust that now. I can go 8 to maybe 9. I'm going to still guess no on the billion. Greg, is this thing going to get to $1 billion? Is it going to join the $1 billion club?
I will say, yeah, I think it will get to $1 billion. I think there's just so much. Like I said, I think a lot of the factoring of Endgame goes heavily into this, although I don't think it has as much repeat value. Even though it's got an A cinema score, like most Marvel films, I don't know if it really has as much of that love or enthusiasm in the word of mouth. A lot of the word of mouth seems to be like, no, it's solid. It's a good Marvel film. But a lot of it doesn't seem to be. There are people, of course, who love the movie, but I don't feel like overall, like that word of mouth on Black Panther was like, you must see this movie. And I don't feel like it has as much of that emotional strength to keep people coming back for repeat value. So I don't think it'll do as well as Black Panther. But I feel like it has a pretty good chance to make $1 billion, especially because it has limited competition in its genre over the next month.
Yeah. So but again, unlike Black Panther, which didn't have a really big, major, significant comic book movie release within its first few weeks, we do have Shazam coming.
Yeah.
And that could, I mean, maybe it helps it, maybe it hurts it. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. All right. Next one up is Garrett Couch, who writes, hey, John, keep reading the Injustice comic. Great character moments, great action, and the story is great. Injustice 2 is turning out to be just as good. Yeah, I keep telling people, read Injustice Gods Among Us Year 1. It is some of the best writing I've seen in a comic book ever. I mean, it was certainly in the last few years, I should say. Anne has already read Year 2 and Year 3, and she loves them. So I've not gotten around to reading Year 2, Garrett, but I do need to get on that. But everybody else, read Injustice Gods Among Us. It's absolutely fantastic. ZOMG Ruler writes, Thoughts on accusations that Carol is a Mary Sue? That's the weak fallback argument for anybody who doesn't like something these days. That's just pathetic. First of all, what do we see in Captain Marvel? We see Captain Marvel. Well, I can't even go into all the ways she flops and fails and has bad things happen in the movie. I can't really address it other than it's a pathetic, weak thing to say, and I'll just leave it at that. Helsing 7747 writes, I might be the only one, but for me, the time flew by so fast while watching Captain Marvel, way too fast. No, you're not the only one. There's a lot of people that it flew. For me, there are pacing issues in the first act. And like, there's a moment, like without giving anything away, to me, the spiritual beginning of Captain Marvel is that scene in the trailer when Marvel meets Nick Fury. To me, that's when the movie really starts. Mm-hmm. And I have pacing issues with the first bit, so it didn't really fly by for me. It certainly picked up pace, but it didn't fly by for me. But for you, Helsing, it clearly did, and I'm glad you had a good time with it. All right. Luis writes, Rob, who is not here, unfortunately, have you read Green Lantern Earth 1? Again, I'll tell you what, Luis, I'll ask him when I see him, but he's not here for me to ask that too. I'm Upset writes, over under 40%. The new Batman is announced at Comic-Con. Ooh.
Oh, God, this Batman story.
Tell you what, I firmly believe Batman's already cast. I believe he's been cast for a little while. Really? I don't know who it is. But remember, when like Ben Affleck revealed much later on that Ben Affleck had actually signed on to play Batman 6 months before they announced that he was Batman.
They emotionally prepped him too for it.
Well, yeah, and they had got him prepped. But on top of all that, remember, they're saying they're going to go into production at the end of this year. With the way Hollywood stars are, their time is booked. You need to book these people as far in advance as you can. You can't just go up. It's like calling a hot girl, and saying at 6:30 on Saturday night and say, "Hey, what are you doing later tonight?" Well, she's going to be booked. Okay, she's going to be booked. And so that's why I think, among other things,
she'll change plans for you, John.
Yes, just for me. Is that why Jennifer Garner said no? Anyway, I believe that whoever's playing Batman, I believe he's already cast. He's been cast. Do they announce it at Comic-Con? I'll tell you what, I hadn't considered that. Yeah, I think they drop his name at Comic-Con. I hadn't thought about that before. But I think I'll take the over 40%. As a matter of fact, I'll go way over 40. I think it's not just over 40%. I think it's likely. So I'll take the over in that. Greg, over under 40% that the new Batman gets announced, and who's playing him at Comic-Con this year.
It seems, I think it's very likely. Last year at Comic-Con, I know Marvel didn't have a panel. I don't know if they're having a panel again this year. But
I know they got D23 this year, so I don't know how much they're going to do at Comic-Con.
Yeah, because that is after Endgame, so I'd imagine they'd be more willing to have either way, DC really owned it last year, and I think this year's Comic-Con, we're definitely going to get at least a Joker trailer for Joaquin Phoenix's Joker.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And I think to really top it again, especially if Marvel has a panel, I feel like announcing the new Batman would be really, really good on their end, because they'll probably have the success of Shazam. They'll build up the anticipation for the Joker and then get a new Batman there as well. I feel like that would be very smart on their end. And I would be surprised if they didn't have a new Batman there.
All right, let's move on here. Danny Cortez writes, hey, John, my first super chat. Well, thank you so much, Danny. I've been watching you for a long time, since the AMC days. Keep up the great work, John. More super chats to come. I can finally say, well, thank you so much, Danny, for, first of all, coming along for the ride since the AMC days. I really appreciate that. And thank you so much for supporting the channel that way, man. I really, really appreciate it. Good to have you here. All right, Alan Gonzalez writes, can you tell us if you have any secret for an upcoming movie, and what secret did you have for past movies? First of all, I'm not going to say anything about any upcoming movies. I'm just not going to do that. The one thing that I always kind of teased was I remember back in the day that I had like a massive spoiler for episode 8. And I remember I told somebody, say, hey, I was on camera. I believe it was with Josh, and I was on camera with Josh, and I said, look, I'm going to tell Josh what it is so he can verify 7 months from now when this movie comes out, he can verify that this is what the secret was. And what I had found out through people connected to the film with episode 8 was that Snoke dies and that Kylo Ren kills him. And that was the thing I knew and all that kind of stuff. Look,
Did you like knowing that?
I would have
hated to know that.
No, I didn't like knowing that. And it was this dude that I knew who just kind of dropped it on me. And I'm like,
that's the worst. That's the worst.
It was, yeah. But at any rate, so since that time though, I have people that I know that work in the film industry and they will tell me certain things, right. But I no longer play that game that I did a couple years ago where I go, oh, I found out this big spoiler for Star Wars Episode 8. Now I look back at that I did that and it's like, why the hell did I do that? That was stupid. And so, yes, there are a few things I know, but I'm not going to talk about them. So, not going to talk about them. But there you go. Do you ever have that, like Greg, like obviously with the circles we travel in, you will know people and meet people and you get told something that you just go, oh God, I wish I could tell everybody, but I'm just going to sit on this. Has that happened to you?
No, not yet. It's like I know a couple of people who are involved in the Hellboy movie, so I had some scoop on that before any trailers came out. But I'm very adamant about like, do not ruin anything. I don't care if you're involved in it, you're my friend. I don't want to know anything about it. I'm very adamant about that.
All right. Let's move on here. Next one comes to us from David Goldstein, who writes, over under 40%, Arrow ends with Oliver dead. I'm going to take the under, but it's not impossible. The only reason I'll take the under on that is because Stephen Amell has already said, hey, don't be surprised if you see me as Oliver pop back up in other CW shows down the road, in guest spots. So because of that, it doesn't mean he won't die at the end of episode 10 of Green Arrow or at the end of, the crisis thing that they're doing. But I will say under 40% of that for now. Muse Tack Reviews writes, hey, John, thoughts on the Michael Jackson doc? I don't watch it. I've expressed this many, many times. I realized years ago, because people used to ask me, hey, John, when are they going to do a Michael Jackson biopic? And I said, look, nobody's going to do a Michael Jackson biopic because there's no way to tell that story where you don't piss half the people in the world off. They're going to be, if you make the biopic and you don't go into the child abuse allegations, you're going to piss a bunch of people off. If you make the movie and you do go into that stuff, there's going to be a bunch of people that pisses them off. There have been court cases and this, and everybody says they've got proof that the other side is wrong and all that kind of nonsense. And so for me, it's just I have no interest in it. I'm not going to see this documentary. From what I'm reading, it's a very one-sided documentary. But I have no interest in it. I am not going to comment on the Michael Jackson situation. I'm not an expert on this stuff. And so I'm not even going to bother seeing it. So nope, not going to have any thoughts on the Michael Jackson documentary. Tinnis Flato Mendoza writes, if I can find him again, where did Tinnis Flato go? I went past him here. Where's Tinnis? There he is. Tinnis Flato Mendoza's, hey, that's not Rob. You're right.
I'm sorry.
That is not Rob.
I'm sorry.
Where are the hot toys that should be stacked up behind you? Nice, Dennis Flato. All right. Syrian Douglas writes, most of the films on the top 20 worldwide opening weekends have eventually reached 1 billion. More $1 billion potential for Captain Marvel since it ranks at number 6. Absolutely. Look, even I have to say the chances for a Captain Marvel joining the $1 billion club are significantly higher today than they were a week ago. I mean, even I got to admit that. I still don't think it will, but you're absolutely right, Karen. The projection seems to say it will. So let's kind of hang in there and see how that all works out. Luke Blackwell writes, John, will Endgame be the last ever Avengers movie?
Oh,
no chance in hell.
No
Unless, I might have missed this. Greg, has there been I haven't read a lot this morning because I've been busy, but has there been any story today about Bob Iger coming out and saying he now hates money? Has that story come out?
I haven't read that
I might have missed it. No?
We'll break the ground today. We'll break the news today. We'll let everyone think that, yeah.
Bob Iger now says, we at Disney are no longer interested in money.
John Campea and Greg Alba report.
Break the story.
Yeah.
You can quote us. No, I look, there's no way this is the last. It might be the last Avengers movie for a couple of years, but there's no way this is the last Avengers movie, is it?
No way. That's they're building up for a whole new set of Avengers.
Yeah. So no chance.
Yeah.
All right. Sasuke Kuchiya writes, Over under 35% for Black Adam post-credit scene in Shazam. I'm going to take way under that. I've heard nothing about it. Dwayne Johnson has repeatedly said I am not in that movie, which could be a misdirect, but they seem pretty adamant. I would dig it if it is. I mean, they only announced Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Shazam round about the same time McDonald's introduced the Big Mac.
Yeah.
So it's only been like 55 years since they announced him with still nothing. But I will still, look, I'll say there's a possibility, but not 35% chance high possibility. Greg, what do you think? Over under 35% that we see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in
I actually
Shazam.
think there's a really good possibility.
Really? So you're going to go over 35% on that?
I mean, based off the trailers, it's so close to the source material that's like the specific from the pages of Justice League comic book, and Shazam is such a big part in it. And like you said, Rock has been a part of it, a casting announcement a long time ago. I wouldn't be surprised. I think there's a really good chance we'll actually see something, even if it's not The Rock, but something about like the tomb of Black Adam or something like that.
That would be great. It would be great to see it. I just don't think it's going to happen. All right. William Dixon just sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, William. Black In and Out 27 writes, great show. Speaking on great movies, from now till July, what if they really made Game of Thrones season 8 episodes into movies? How much would they make? Just wondering. Like if they made them, like if instead of airing them on television, they simply put them out in theaters.
8 movies?
Ooh. Well, I mean, it would be 6 movies because there's only 6 episodes this year.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, asking people to go to like, even if you cut it down to 4 movies, asking people to go to like 4 movies to watch something that they have become accustomed over the last 8 years to watch for free on television. Mm-hmm. I honestly don't know. I mean, they'd make more than Wonder Park is going to make this weekend. I mean, I feel pretty good about that, but I don't know. I don't know, Greg, will people just get on board with that, or would they be really pissed off that they are now taking Game of Thrones and putting it on the movie screen instead?
I think they'd be pissed off. I think an episode structure, even if the episodes are like an hour and a half or something, an episode structure is very different as opposed to a movie structure. And I don't feel like the same kind of, it would just be a different thing, and I'm not sure the quality would be up to par. Like what have there been any good HBO transitions? I know the Sex and the City Part 1 movie was fine.
Yeah, it did quite well too. I mean, look, they do Game of Thrones very cinematically, and I'm sure they've taken 2 years to bring up these final 6 episodes, and I'm sure they're going to be grand. And they're saying this Battle of Winterfell is going to be bigger than the Battle of Helm's Deep in Lord of the Rings, and it's just that I think there would be a real backlash from people.
Oh, yeah.
Saying, we've been with you and faithful to you for 8 years, and this is how you repay us?
I only have my HBO subscription to watch this one show,
Yeah, I've been paying for it every month for 8 years just for this. I just think there would be a big backlash against it, so I can't see that happening.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. Rufino Salazar Jr. writes, do you see Brie Larson working at theater? Did you see Brie Larson working in a theater giving out popcorn? Awesome stuff. That was great. So for those of you who don't know what Salazar is talking about, or Rufino's talking about, is that Brie Larson, I guess, surprised some people in the movie theater by going to a theater where Captain Marvel was debuting and actually working at the concession stand and giving out popcorn and stuff, which is always great to see when you're getting people doing stuff like that. And I think I lost Greg. Greg has been stopped. I think what happened, for you guys who've watched The Umbrella Academy, I think the operative from the Time Bureau must be walking into the room because we got Greg frozen, which is fine because we're almost wrapped up here today anyway. We're almost wrapped up. So let's keep going on here. Let's see. Sam O writes, I enjoyed the movie. What do you think of all the hate the movie is getting, and which is better, this or Wonder Woman? I honestly put Wonder Woman and this. I've talked all about I've talked ad nauseum, Sam, about the fake outrage and the BS deceitful smear campaign and all that kind of stuff. I actually put Wonder Woman and this pretty much on par with each other. I actually quite like Wonder Woman. I think Patty Jenkins did a fabulous job with that movie. Again, I don't put Wonder Woman on the same level as Man of Steel, kind of the same way that I don't put Captain Marvel on the same level as, Captain America Winter Soldier. But I think they're very different films, but they're very comparable quality-wise to me. And I personally put them both on about the same level. Hidden Talent writes, Marvel standalone movies, not good with new characters. Also, why are they dumbing down characters like Black Panther and overrating Captain Marvel? There's nothing. First of all, movies are not the comic books. People, you got to understand this. Like when they start making a movie about your favorite comic character, you can pretty much look forward to hopefully they get the spirit of the character, but you can throw pretty much everything else away because movies and comic books are two different things. And in no way did anybody watch Black Panther and say, wow, they've really dumbed this character up. No, they didn't. And they weren't doing any overrating on Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is one of the alpha characters in the Marvel comic books. So they really haven't done anything like that. So I just don't know where you're getting that from, Hidden. Okay, final question today comes to us, and I think we got Greg back. I think Greg has reappeared. Although, you're there now? There he is. Greg's back.
I'm alive.
Okay, just in time for the last question.
Yes.
Taki75 writes, have you read about the Endgame footage showing to Disney shareholders, Avengers, Carol, Nebula, Rocket, talked to go and, well, you know what, Taki, that you're getting into some spoiler stuff there, so I'm just not going to address that. Anyway.
Good last question.
We're just not going to address that. That will do it for us today here, guys, for this episode of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and for supporting the channel, giving us all this, the great stuff to talk about, and just giving us a group of people that we can be fellow film fans with, talking about our favorite things in the world. And I, of course, want to thank Mr. Greg Alba for being here. Greg,
Thanks
where can people find you and your stuff online?
Follow me at Robert Meyer Burnett today. The Real Rejects on YouTube and at the Greg Alba on Twitter and Instagram. Post daily on YouTube. So follow me today. And thanks for having me, John. I love this show. I do love this show. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, guys. Great having you back on here. And by the way, guys, you can follow me on Instagram simply at John Campea. And of course, make sure, once again, guys, remember to submit topics or questions to be main topics on the John Campea Show. You now go over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Make sure you fill out that form and send it on in, and make sure you keep those messages to 90 words or less. Also, guys, listen, you've heard me talk a lot about Patreon supporters. If the first email today came from a Patreon supporter, do me a favor. If you've enjoyed watching the show, go on over to www.patreon.com/John Campea. Find out what it means to be a Patreon supporter, how being a Patreon supporter keeps the show on the air, and also a few of the perks of being a Patreon supporter. And then maybe you'll want to become a Patreon supporter too, which would be awesome. And if not, no problem. I'm just grateful you're here being a film fan with us. That'll do it for us for today, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until our next video, bye-bye.